Okay, so describe the planting technique again, please.
Well, the planting technique shown to me for growing things in a rock mulch garden, or lithic mulch garden is another name, would be to move rocks aside, expose the soil, put in your cuttings, maybe add some kind of nutrients nowadays, and what that could be might be, because there's horses and cows on the island in historic times, they might add some of that kind of manure, but what they probably used in the past might have been like ashes from their cooking thing, then from their luau, and then add back the rocks around the cuttings. So it's back about the original, but they may have been actually V-shaped. So the rocks would be higher here and then taper down to wherever the plant is coming up. In some cases, on the south coast of Easter Island, there are areas that the rocks are like a meter high, and they actually, you can see the cones, and they have some of the, more recently, the historically introduced taros in them, which are much larger plants, and so they would extend well above the that 1 meter high. So the leaves are exposed to the sun, but the roots are protected, in the moisture area. Not all plants are done that way. Things like bananas, which are a very tall plant, might be 10 or 20 feet tall, they would oftentimes try to put where it would not be exposed to strong winds. And the island itself is quite windy now. It may not have been when there were a lot of trees. There might have been more protected areas, but for the most part, along the coast area where the people lived and planted their crops, they would put them near natural areas of rocks, that would serve as a wind barrier, or they would put them in swales, lower areas where the wind was reduced, and they would put them in rows, actually. The bananas, in that case, would be put in a little hill surrounded by a trough, a circular trough, so if it did rain, the rainwater would collect in the trough, which is good for the summer crops. Cut.
Okay.
Are they here?
Darlingtonia.
Oh yes,
California.
look at that. Darlingtonia.
You could pick a few for the table.
So, okay, so what's the next question? I've lost my train of thought here.
Okay, well, it seems like you're covering up an awful lot of the soil with rocks. So how does this affect how much production you can get per acre, hectare, however you measure it?
Well, that I can't tell you. I don't know how many plants they planted in an area. The soils are obviously ground up because they kept reusing them. And so you can't tell how many plants they had per square meter or whatever, per square acre. That would be an interesting experiment to do. As far as I know, it hasn't been done. It also, it probably varies from one part of the island to another, because you would have varying degrees of fertility in the different parts of the soil, different depths of soil. Some of the soil on Easter Island is very thin, but some of it is very, it's quite deep.
Hey, Chris, you want to go across? Oh, see, what these crops that you mentioned would be grown with lithic methods how deep do their roots root?
Well, the soil itself that's underneath the rock layer is usually about 50 centimeters. And that would be, what, about 1.5 feet deep? It could be as little as a foot, though.
Okay. And that's how deep the roots would normally go? I mean, would they be stunted because of
Well, some of the roots, I mean, sometimes we found grooves that went into the soft bedrock underneath, because the bedrock is sort of, it's what they call regolith. It's soil that's breaking down, or it's bedrock that's breaking down. And it's breaking down into clays and things, but the good thing about volcanic soils is they're quite rich in nutrients that the plants can use, so it probably was useful for that. Most of the plants are